We've all heard of Caesar's assassination, the famous scene in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, where the Roman emperor is stabbed to death by a group of senators. But what if I told you that killing Caesar was actually meant to save Rome? Well, today let us find out how this dark tale of betrayal and murder shook Rome to its core and set in motion the events that would lead to the downfall of the Roman Republic and the rise of the Roman Empire. Welcome to my channel. Today we will be exploring how Caesar's assassination led to the fall of Rome. Viewer discretion is advised for this video, as some of this video may be offensive or disturbing. We, the makers of this video, in no way support or condone the actions of the subjects featured. Gaius Julius Caesar was one of the most powerful men in the ancient world. He was a brilliant military commander who had conquered Gaul and made Rome a republic. At the height of his power, he was considered a god by his admirers and a tyrant by his enemies. His enemies feared him so much that they decided to kill him. A group of senators led by Cassius and Brutus plotted to assassinate Caesar, and they succeeded on March 15, 44 BC, a date that would later become known as the Ides of March. Caesar's assassination sent shockwaves throughout the Roman world. It was not just the loss of a powerful leader, it was the death of a legend. But while Caesar might have been invincible in battle, his demise was far more subtle. Let's get into it. In the days leading up to the assassination, Caesar had been warned of danger, but he ignored the signs. On the morning of March, he left his house and headed to the Senate, where he was met by a group of conspirators. They greeted Caesar with false warmth, but their true intentions were far from friendly. As Caesar entered the Senate chamber, the conspirators closed in on him, led by Julius Caesar, who had come to ask for pardon for his brother Gaius, who had been exiled by Caesar. Caesar laid a supplicating hand on Caesar's shoulder, and in a moment of hesitation, the plotters struck. Caesar was stabbed multiple times, but he fought back, slashing at his attackers with a dagger. Despite being mortally wounded, Caesar managed to flee the Senate chamber and stumbled into the courtyard of the nearby portico of Pompey, where he collapsed and died. The assassins fled, believing that they had saved the Republic from Caesar's tyranny. However, little did they know that their actions would unleash a chain of events that would lead to the fall of Rome. One of the immediate consequences of Caesar's death was the outbreak of civil war. Caesar's adopted son and heir, Octavian, who would later become known as Augustus, formed an alliance with Caesar's nephew, Mark Antony, and they were joined by Caesar's widow, Cleopatra. On the other side were the assassins led by Marcus, Junius Brutus, and Cassius. The assassins believed that they had acted in the best interest of Rome, and that they were saving the Republic from Caesar's tyranny. However, public opinion was firmly against them. The assassination of Caesar had been a deeply traumatic event for the Roman people, and they were looking for someone to blame. The assassins tried to justify their actions by claiming that they had acted to defend the Republic, but it was not enough. The people were outraged and they turned on the assassins. As the civil war raged on, Octavian and Mark Antony emerged as the victors. However, their victory was Pyrrhic. Rome had been devastated by the war, and the assassins had succeeded in killing Caesar, but they had also killed the Republic. With Caesar gone, there was no one to hold the empire together, and it began to crumble from within. The civil war had weakened Rome, and it was no longer the powerhouse it once was. The provinces that had once been loyal to Rome began to rebel, and the empire was thrown into chaos. Caesar's death also had a profound impact on the Roman people. For many Romans, Caesar was a symbol of strength and stability in a time of great change and uncertainty. His assassination was seen as a betrayal by those who had supported him, and it created a deep sense of division and mistrust among the people. This instability and mistrust would continue to plague Rome for centuries to come. The assassination of Caesar was a pivotal moment in Roman history. It marked the end of the Roman Republic and the beginning of the Roman Empire. However, the impact of Caesar's death went far beyond the political and territorial changes. It was also a cultural and psychological turning point. The assassination of Caesar shattered the sense of order and stability that had defined Roman society for centuries. It created a climate of fear and suspicion that permeated every aspect of Roman life. Before Caesar's death, Rome had been a relatively open and tolerant society. However, after the assassination, the streets of Rome became a battleground for competing political factions, and the city was torn apart by violence and bloodshed. The assassination also had a profound impact on the Roman psyche. The Romans had always prided themselves on their sense of order and stability, but the assassination of Caesar showed them that even the mightiest of empires could be brought down by internal strife. This trauma would continue to shape Roman culture for centuries to come. Another important consequence of Caesar's death was the emergence of new power centers in the Roman world. Before Caesar's assassination, the Roman Senate had been the dominant political institution in the Republic. However, the assassins' attempt to restore the power of the Senate backfired. The civil war that followed the assassination resulted in the deaths of many senators and the emergence of new leaders such as Octavian and Mark Antony. These new leaders were not beholden to the traditional power structures of the Senate, and they were able to consolidate power in new ways. This shift in power would have a profound impact on the future of Rome. Following Caesar's death, Octavian and Mark Antony emerged as the dominant figures in the Roman world. Octavian, who would later become known as Augustus, was declared the first emperor of Rome, and he established a new dynasty of rulers that would last for centuries. Augustus's rule marked the beginning of the Roman Empire, a new era in Roman history that was characterized by centralized authority and imperial rule. The assassination of Caesar had inadvertently created the conditions for the rise of the empire and the decline of the republic. Caesar's assassination was a defining moment in Roman history, and marked the end of the republic and the beginning of the Roman Empire. But the consequences of Caesar's death extended far beyond the political and territorial changes. It was a cultural and psychological turning point that shaped Roman society for centuries to come. The assassination shattered the sense of order and stability that had defined Roman life. It created a climate of fear and suspicion, and it led to the emergence of new power centers in the Roman world. In the end, the assassins may have thought they were saving Rome, but they had unleashed forces that would ultimately destroy it. After Caesar's assassination, Rome would never be the same. The Republic was dead, replaced by an empire that would stretch from Spain to Egypt. Caesar's legacy, however, would live on in the hearts and minds of the Roman people. He would be remembered as a great leader, a brilliant military commander, and a martyr for the cause of Rome. His death would be seen as a tragedy, a moment when the Republic had lost its way, and the Roman world had been plunged into chaos. The assassination of Caesar was a monumental event in world history. It was the death of a legend, the fall of a republic, and the rise of an empire. But it was also a tragedy, a cautionary tale of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the folly of those who sought to defy the will of the people. So what are your thoughts on today's video? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for watching. Thank you for watching.